Commander Lisa Powell stood on the bridge of the USV Resilience, her eyes fixed on the main screen. The massive alien ships entered Earth's orbit one by one, their crystalline hulls gleaming in the sunlight. 6 months ago, these same vessels had arrived bearing gifts and promises of friendship. Now they returned with weapons primed. "Status report," Lisa said, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. "All systems normal, Commander," replied Officer Greg Davis from his station. But we're picking up unusual energy readings from?" "The alien fleet," Lisa nodded. The Zarek had seemed so benevolent during first contact. They shared advanced technology, offered medical knowledge, and promised peaceful cooperation. World leaders welcomed them with open arms. Lisa had been suspicious from the start, but her warnings went unheeded. Now her worst fears were coming. "True, send word to command." "Tell them." The bridge lights flickered and died. Emergency power kicked in seconds later, bathing everything in dim red light. "We've lost main power," Greg reported, fingers flying across his console. "Communications down, weapons systems offline." Lisa gripped the railing as the ship shuddered. "They're attacking." Across the view screen, the first missiles launched from the Zarek ships, streaking toward Earth's major cities. Not conventional. Explosives, but devices that pulsed with strange energy. Where they struck, electrical systems failed. Darkness spread like ink stains across the night side of the planet. "Get me any communication channel that still works," Lisa ordered. "And prepare for emergency landing protocols. We need to reach command before it's too late." In Washington, D.C., General Frank Miller watched as the Pentagon's sophisticated defense systems went dark one by one. Screens flickered out, communications failed. Even backup generators sputtered and died. "What the hell is happening?" demanded the Secretary of Defense, his face barely visible in the glow of emergency lights. Frank stared out the window at the chaos unfolding in the city. Traffic lights dead. Cars crashed at intersections, buildings falling dark. And above it all, the alien ships hovering like silent predators. "They didn't come to conquer," Frank said quietly. "They came to break us." He turned to his aide. "Get me to the underground bunker?" "If there's any facility still operating, it will be there." Across the nation, the same scene played out. Power grids failed. Communication networks collapsed. Water. Systems stopped pumping. Transportation ground to a halt. Modern society, so dependent on technology, began to unravel in a matter of hours. At the Global Defense Initiative headquarters, buried deep in the mountains of Colorado, Dr. Olivia Martinez worked frantically to understand what was happening. As the leading xenobiologist who had studied the Zarek since first contact, she noticed something others missed. "Look at this attack pattern," she told her assistant, pointing to a map where red dots showed strikes. "They're avoiding certain installations." Her assistant, a young scientist named Peter Simmons, leaned closer. "Those are all places housing their gifted technology." Olivia's eyes widened. "They're not destroying everything. They're protecting their own tech. But why?" She pulled up data on the Zarek devices that had been distributed worldwide over the past 6 months. Energy generators, medical scanners, communication arrays. All seemingly benevolent, all eagerly integrated into Earth's infrastructure. "We need to isolate one of these devices," she said. "I think there's more to them than we realized." Navy Lieutenant John Carson had been on patrol near the International Space Station when the attack began. His shuttle, caught in some kind of energy pulse, lost power and drifted until a Zarek scout ship captured it. Now he stood in what appeared to be a holding cell, its walls made of the same crystalline material as the ship's. The door slid open, revealing a Zarek in full battle armor. The alien stood 7 feet tall, with 4 arms and skin that resembled faceted crystal. This one's surface glowed with blue light, marking it as a commander. "Human," it said, its voice oddly musical despite the harsh words. "Your resistance is pointless. Your military might is disabled. Your cities will soon fall into disorder." John stood straight, hiding his fear. "What do you want from us? Our resources, our planet?" The Zarek made a sound like tinkling glass laughter. John realized We have no interest in ruling primitives, it said. Your planet has some valuable minerals, yes, but we could take those without this effort. No, this is something else entirely. Then why attack us? John demanded. The commander moved closer, its crystalline face reflecting John's own image back at him. Your species is primitive and predictable. Humans rely on order, on structure, on systems working as expected. We bring chaos. Without your technology, without your comforts, your civilization will tear itself apart while we watch. It always happens this way. The alien's tone suggested it had done this before, to other worlds, other species. When your kind has sufficiently reduced your numbers through conflict over remaining resources, we will collect what we need and depart. The strong will survive, perhaps, most will not. John felt cold anger replace his fear. He thought of his family in Boston, his friends, his home, all now fighting to survive this engineered collapse. He looked directly at the alien commander and allowed himself a small smile. You really don't understand humans at all, do you? The Zarek tilted its head, facets catching the light. Explain. Chaos isn't our enemy, John said. It's our natural state. Order is what we created to make sense of chaos. Take away our tools and we'll make new ones. Break our systems, we'll build better ones. The commander dismissed his words with a wave of its upper right arm. Brave words from a captured soldier. We have done this many times, human. Your kind always believes they are different, special. You are not. You will fight among yourselves as resources dwindle. You will destroy what remains of your civilization. And we will watch. Then watch carefully, John said, his smile growing despite his situation. Because you're about to get one hell of a show. As night fell across America, cities lay in darkness. But in that darkness, something unexpected happened. Neighbors checked on neighbors. Communities gathered in churches and schools. People shared what they had. And in the shadows, plans formed. Lisa Powell managed to land the disabled Resilience outside Denver. Leading her crew through the chaos of the darkened city, she found others like herself, military personnel, police officers, ordinary citizens ready to fight back. The Zarek think they've won, she told the group gathered in an old subway tunnel. They think they've broken us, but they've just started a fight they don't understand. Frank Miller reached the underground bunker to find it partially operational, protected by old-fashioned technology the alien weapons couldn't affect. He began to gather information to coordinate what remained of military forces. Dr. Martinez worked through the night, dissecting one of the Zarek gifts her team had isolated. What she found made her both angry and hopeful, and in his cell aboard the alien ship, John Carson began to plan his escape. The Zarek had made a critical error. They'd studied human technology, human systems, human dependence on modern conveniences, but they hadn't studied human history. They didn't understand what humanity had overcome to build civilization in the first place. They didn't know what humans were capable of when everything was taken away. The Zarek had brought chaos to Earth. Now, it was humanity's turn to show them what that really meant. 3 months passed since the Zarek attack. The world had changed. Cities stood in darkness. Vehicles sat abandoned on highways. Modern life had ground to a halt. But humanity had not broken as the aliens expected. Alan Wright led a group of 15 survivors through the ruins of Chicago. Once a college professor teaching history, he now taught survival. His group moved quietly, avoiding Zarek patrols that occasionally swept the city. Stay low, Alan whispered, raising his hand to stop the group. Ahead, a Zarek scout ship hovered over a collapsed department store. 4 crystalline aliens used strange devices to scan the rubble. What are they looking for? Asked Mary, a nurse, who had joined Alan's group a month ago. Metals, Alan replied. They take copper, aluminum, rare earth elements, but they leave food and water supplies untouched. This was the strangest part of the occupation. The Zarek destroyed infrastructure but made no attempt to govern. They appeared randomly, harvested resources, then disappeared again. They created chaos but did nothing with it. Alan waited until the aliens departed. then led his group to their current home, an old library with thick stone walls. Inside, children played quietly while adults sorted supplies. Maps covered one wall, marked with Zarek sightings and safe routes. "Professor," called Hector, a former city bus driver. "Radio's picking up something from Colorado?" Alan moved to the hand-cranked radio set. For weeks, they had heard nothing but static. Now a voice came through, weak but clear, to all survivors. "This is Dr. Olivia Martinez at EcoBase. We are organizing resistance. The Zarek can be fought." Repeat, "The Zarek can be fought." The message continued with coordinates for secure communication. Alan looked at the hopeful faces around him. "Looks like we're not alone after all." Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Martinez worked in a laboratory filled with salvaged equipment. The underground facility had once belonged to a research university. Now it served as one of humanity's last technological strongholds. She stood over a dissected piece of Zarek technology, one of the gifts they had brought during first contact. Beside her, computer specialist Kevin Hall typed rapidly on a keyboard connected to the alien device. "I've bypassed another security protocol," Kevin said, pushing his glasses up. "These systems are complex but not impossible to crack." Olivia nodded. "They never expected us to examine their gifts so closely. They thought we'd just use them, become dependent on them." "Their mistake," Kevin replied. "They think chaos is our weakness. They have no idea it's our natural habitat." The door opened, and General Frank Miller entered. 3 months of fighting had aged him. A scar ran across his forehead, but his eyes remained sharp. "Any progress?" he asked. Olivia gestured to a screen showing alien code. "The devices they gave us contained backdoors into their own systems. We're learning how to access them." Frank nodded. "Good, because we've got reports of new Zarek activity. They're deploying something big in orbit." Across the Pacific Ocean, Captain Susan Lee stood on the bridge of the USS Independence, a nuclear submarine that had been at sea during the initial attack. By staying underwater and using minimal electronics, her crew had avoided detection. "Status." "Report," she ordered. "We've established contact with 3 other submarines, Captain," reported her communications officer. 2 American, 1 Japanese. "They're following the same protocols we are." Susan studied the map spread on the table. "Raid?" Marks showed confirmed Zarek positions. Blue marks showed human resistance strongholds. A naval resistance network was forming beneath the aliens' notice. "The Zarek control the skies and much of the land," she told her officers. "But the oceans remain ours. We'll use that advantage." In a prisoner camp outside Atlanta, John Carson quietly organized fellow captives. After his capture, the Zarek had brought him to Earth with other prisoners. They were held behind energy barriers in what had once been a sports stadium. The aliens used human prisoners for labor, forcing them to sort through rubble for valuable materials. But they paid little attention otherwise, assuming humans too. Broken to resist, John passed between work groups, whispering instructions. Tools disappeared from work sites. Information about guard rotations was memorized. Small pieces of alien technology were secretly collected and hidden. "Tonight," he told Rosa, a former police officer who had become his most trusted ally. "The South Barrier fluctuates at exactly 2:17 a.m. We'll have 12 seconds, Rosa nodded. "The first group is ready." 20 people, as planned. "Once we're out, we head for the mountains," John said. Dr. Martinez's message said there's a resistance base there. In the Rocky Mountains, Lisa Powell led a team of fighters through a narrow pass. The former naval commander now led a guerrilla cell that struck Zarek, mining operations, and helped survivors reach safety. Her team carried salvaged military weapons and wore mismatched gear. But they moved with purpose and discipline. Lisa had turned civilians into soldiers in 3 short months. They reached a hidden antenna array built from scavenged parts. Her communications expert, a young woman named Diane, began adjusting settings. "I'm picking up a transmission," Diane said suddenly. "It's Zarek communication. Encrypted, but the pattern matches what we've seen before." Lisa leaned closer. "Can you decode any of it?" "Just fragments," Diane replied. But they keep mentioning something called Phase 2, Lisa's expression darkened. Whatever they've done, so far was just the beginning. Contact base. Tell Dr. Martinez what we found. Back at Eco Base, Olivia received Lisa's message with growing concern. She gathered the resistance leadership in the command center, where maps and screens showed their limited picture of the global situation. The Zarek are planning something new, she explained. Based on the transmission fragments Lisa's team intercepted, they're moving to the next stage of their attack. What could be worse than what they've already done? Asked one of the regional commanders. Kevin entered the room, his face pale. I think I know. I just decoded more of their system. They have orbital platforms positioned around Earth. They're designed to affect our atmosphere. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They can create storms, Kevin continued. Hurricanes, tornadoes, electrical disturbances. They're going to unleash weather chaos on a global scale. Frank Miller stood. How long do we have? Days, maybe, Kevin replied. A week at most. Olivia looked at the faces around her. 3 months ago, they had been strangers. Now they were humanity's best hope. The Zarek think this will break us, she said. They think more chaos will finish what they started, but they're wrong. She pointed to the map showing resistance strongholds growing across every continent. Humans don't break under pressure, she continued. We adapt. We innovate, and now we fight back, Frank nodded. Spread the word to all resistance cells. Phase 2 is coming, but so is our counterattack. The Zarek brought chaos. Now it's our turn. Outside the base, snow began to fall on the mountains. Storm clouds gathered on the horizon. The weather was changing. And so was the tide of war. 6 months into the occupation, the Zarek launched Phase 2. The sky darkened as orbital platforms activated around the world. Wind speeds increased. Temperatures fluctuated wildly. Massive storms formed where none should exist. In what remained of New York City, hurricane-force winds tore through abandoned skyscrapers. In the Midwest, tornadoes touched down one after another, carving paths of destruction across farmland. Along coastlines, massive waves crashed inland, flooding areas miles from shore. The Zarek commander's voice broadcast worldwide, through any working devices, adapt to chaos or perish. But something unexpected happened. Rather than breaking, human resistance cells became more organized. The harsher the conditions, the more people worked together. Innovation flourished in the face of new challenges. At Eco Base in Colorado, now a hub of resistance activity, Dr. Martinez gathered her team as rain pounded the mountainside above them. I've made a breakthrough, she announced, displaying the inner workings of a Zarek device on a large screen. The technology they gifted us before the attack, it contains more than just backdoors. It contains their entire operating system. Kevin whistled. You mean we can access all their systems? Better, Olivia replied. We can control them. The Zarek wanted us to become dependent on their tech. Instead, we're going to use it against them. General Miller leaned forward. How soon? 2 weeks to build the interface, Olivia said. Maybe less with Kevin's help. Lisa Powell, who had just returned from a mission, nodded. My teams will provide whatever you need. Meanwhile, we have news from John Carson. He made it out of the Atlanta camp with 50 others. They're heading this way. Across the globe, human resistance fighters adapted to the new conditions. They developed ways to communicate that the Zarek couldn't monitor analog technologies, coded radio transmissions, even modified animal messengers. The aliens, expecting electronic warfare, were blind to these primitive but effective methods. In what had once been farmland outside Chicago, Alan Wright's group joined with 3 other survivor bands. Together, they converted an old dairy processing plant into a shelter that could withstand the storms. Children were taught in makeshift classrooms. Adults trained and planned. The Zarek control the weather now, Alan told the gathered leaders. But humans have endured natural disasters throughout our history. We'll endure this too. A runner arrived, bringing news from other settlements. The storms are following patterns, she reported. They're not random. The heavy rains come for 3 days, then stop for 2. The wind patterns shift every 6 hours. Alan realized what this meant. They're creating chaos, but it's artificial chaos. It has rules. If we can predict those rules, we can use them to our advantage, finished Mary. 8 vessels now coordinated activities across the world's oceans. Using old sonar systems that didn't rely on modern electronics, they mapped Zarek movements and shared intelligence. Their ships follow the storms, Susan told her officers. They use the cover of bad weather to move their mining operations. But their vessels struggle in extreme conditions just like ours would, her weapons officer smiled. So if we could predict when and where the worst weather will hit, we could catch them at their most vulnerable. Susan finished. John Carson and his escaped prisoners traveled by night, avoiding Zarek patrols. The weather made their journey difficult, but also provided cover. The aliens didn't expect humans to move during the worst storms. When a tornado formed unexpectedly in their path, John led the group into an abandoned highway tunnel. As they waited out the storm, a young man named Eric approached him. I worked at a weather station before all this, Eric said. These patterns aren't natural, but they're consistent. The Zarek are using algorithms to control the weather. Complex, but predictable if you know what to look for. John's eyes widened. Could you predict what's coming next? Eric nodded. With the right equipment, yes. Then we need to get you to Dr. Martinez as soon as possible, John said. Meanwhile, Lisa Powell's mountain forces captured a small Zarek scout ship that had crashed during a severe lightning storm. The pilot survived and was taken prisoner. The first live Zarek capture since the invasion began. Lisa entered the makeshift cell where the alien sat, its crystalline form dimmer than she'd seen before. She brought water and set it down. Why do you help me? The Zarek asked, its voice musical despite the harsh translation. Because humans help those in need, Lisa replied. Even enemies. The alien studied her, inefficient, a waste of resources. Maybe, Lisa said, or maybe it's what makes us strong. She asked questions about the Zarek homeworld, their society, their reasons for attacking Earth. At first, the alien refused to answer. But as days passed, it began to speak. Lisa learned that the Zarek came from a highly regimented society. Their crystalline bodies required precise conditions to thrive. Their planet had few natural disasters or climate variations. Everything was ordered, planned, controlled. We believed introducing chaos would weaken you, the Zarek explained, because disorder would be catastrophic for our species. Lisa understood. Then you judged us by your own standards? You never considered that humans evolve through chaos. We're born in it, shaped by it. At EcoBase, Olivia and Kevin worked day and night on their interface to the Zarek systems. General Miller coordinated with resistance cells worldwide, preparing for what they now called Operation Wildfire. The Zarek think they understand chaos, Miller told his officers. But they've created it artificially with patterns and rules. True chaos follows no rules. And that's what we're going to give them. The plan formed simultaneous, seemingly random attacks worldwide, no discernible pattern. No predictable targets. Forces striking and vanishing before the Zarek could respond. When John Carson finally reached Echo Base with his group, Eric, the weather expert, was immediately introduced to Dr. Martinez, together with Kevin. They began mapping the algorithms controlling the Zarek weather platforms. If we can predict the storms, Olivia explained to General Miller, we can use them against the Zarek. Their ships are vulnerable in extreme weather, more vulnerable than our makeshift vehicles. Lisa returned from the mountains with information from the captured Zarek. They come from a world without disaster, without unpredictability, she reported. Their society cannot handle true chaos. It's their weakness, not ours, Miller nodded. Then that's exactly what we'll give them. For the next week, resistance forces worldwide prepared. Old technologies were repurposed. Mechanical systems replaced. Electronic ones where possible. Teams trained to operate in storm conditions. Supply caches were hidden along strategic routes. The night before Operation Wildfire was set to begin, John Carson stood outside the base, looking up at the storm-filled sky. Lightning flashed, illuminating the mountains in brief. Brilliant moments. Alan Wright, who had arrived with his Chicago group that morning, joined him, nervous. Alan asked. John shook his head. The Zarek commander told me humans rely on order, that chaos would destroy us. He was so certain. What he didn't understand, Alan said, is that human civilization isn't about eliminating chaos. It's about dancing with it. Adapting to it, using it, John nodded. Tomorrow we show them what that really means. Inside the base, final preparations were underway. Teams checked equipment. Officers reviewed plans. Dr. Martinez and Kevin completed their interface to the Zarek systems. It's ready, Olivia announced to the command staff. When Operation Wildfire begins, we'll activate our backdoor into their network. We won't just fight the Zarek, we'll turn their own technology against them. General Miller looked at the faces around him, soldiers and civilians, scientists and farmers, people from all walks of life united against an enemy that had tried to break them with chaos. The Zarek brought the storm, he said. Now it's our turn to show them what happens when they wake a hurricane. Operation Wildfire began at dawn. Across the globe, resistance cells launched attacks that followed no pattern the Zarek could predict. Some targeted mining operations. Others hit communication relays. Some simply created distractions while teams gathered intelligence. The Zarek, used to fighting organized armies with clear strategies, found themselves unable to predict where humans would strike next. Their forces spread thin, trying to respond to attacks that seemed random. And EcoBase, Dr. Martinez and Kevin activated their interface to the Zarek systems. On large screens, they watched as alien code responded to their commands. We're in, Kevin announced, his fingers flying across the keyboard. Their ships are losing formation. Their communications are becoming garbled, Olivia smiled. The backdoor algorithms are working. We're creating cascading failures in their systems. General Miller received reports from around the world. London. Team successful. Moscow team successful. Beijing team reporting heavy resistance but achieved objectives. Operation Wildfire is working. Lisa Powell led a strike team against a major Zarek mining operation in the Rockies. Using the predicted weather patterns, they timed their attack to coincide with a massive thunderstorm. The Zarek ships, struggling to maintain stability in the high winds, were easy targets for the modified weapons Lisa's team carried. Target. They're stabilizers, Lisa ordered as lightning flashed overhead. Without those, they can't navigate in the storm. Her team moved like ghosts through the rain, striking quickly and then vanishing before the Zarek could organize a defense. Years of military training combined with months of guerrilla warfare had made Lisa's fighters into something new, soldiers who thrived in chaos. In Chicago, Alan Wright coordinated civilian forces using guerrilla tactics that baffled the Zarek. When the aliens established patterns to counter them, the humans immediately changed approaches. No fixed bases, Alan reminded his group leaders. No predictable timing. Strike where they don't expect, when they don't expect it. His fighters used the storms as cover, moving during the worst weather when Zarek sensors were least effective. They employed old technologies, mechanical traps, physical signals, simple chemistry that the aliens' advanced systems couldn't detect. When a Zarek commander attempted to establish a containment zone around the city, Alan's forces simply abandoned it, striking elsewhere instead. The aliens secured empty buildings while humans operated freely behind their lines. Captain Susan Lee's submarine fleet launched their part of Operation Wildfire from beneath the waves. Using the weather prediction model provided by Eric, they positioned themselves where Zarek ships would seek shelter from the storms. Launch on my mark, Susan ordered as her submarine rose to firing depth. Above them, 3 Zarek vessels hovered low over the water. Avoiding the hurricane force winds higher in the atmosphere, the submarines fired specialized missiles designed by resistance engineers, simple projectiles with minimal electronics, but maximum physical impact. The Zarek ships, their sensors confused by the storm and the new failures in their systems, never saw the attack coming. Direct hits on all targets, reported Susan's weapons officer. 2 ships down, 1 retreating. Susan nodded. Send word to the other subs? Phase 1 complete? Begin Phase 2. Target their communication relays. In orbit, another part of Operation Wildfire unfolded. Using old space stations that had been abandoned but not destroyed by the Zarek, human teams launched makeshift but effective weapons against the alien flagships. No tactics, ordered the space station commander. Hit them where they don't expect when they don't expect it. The Zarek ships, designed for organized space combat, couldn't track the seemingly random movements of the human attackers. Their formations broke. Their carefully planned responses fell apart on the ground. John Carson led a special strike team on the most dangerous mission of all, infiltrating the main Zarek command ship that had landed near what used to be Washington, D.C. We have 12 minutes before they detect the system failures, John told his team as they approached the massive crystalline vessel. By then, we need to be inside. The ship sat in the center of what had once been the National Mall, surrounded by a shimmering energy field. But thanks to Dr. Martinez's interface, that field would fail for exactly 2 minutes. Field down in 3, 2, 1, ... counted Eric through the radio. The shimmering disappeared. John's team sprinted forward, carrying minimal electronics that wouldn't trigger Zarek sensors. They reached the hull just as a panel opened Kevin's work through the interface. Inside, John ordered. His team slipped into the alien vessel. Seconds before the energy field reactivated, the interior of the Zarek ship glowed with blue light. Crystalline corridors branched in all directions. Using maps developed from the captured scout ship, John led his team toward the central command center. They encountered few Zarek soldiers. Most had been deployed to counter the worldwide attacks of Operation Wildfire. Those they did meet were confused, their communications disrupted by the interface hack. Finally, they reached the command center, a vast chamber where dozens of Zarek officers worked at glowing control panels. At the center stood a larger alien whose crystal body shone with deep blue light, the invasion commander. Now, John whispered into his radio, throughout the ship, small devices planted by resistance agents activated. Not bombs, but simple electromagnetic pulse generators built from salvaged technology. One by one, the Zarek control panels went dark. The commander turned as John's team entered the room. Humans, it said, voice musical but tone harsh. How did you penetrate our defenses? John stepped forward. The same way we've survived everything you've thrown at us. We adapted. We evolved. We used chaos against you. The Zarek commanders. Crystalline face couldn't show emotion, but its voice revealed confusion. Impossible. Our analysis showed your species cannot function without order, without structure. You analyzed wrong, John replied. Humans create order from chaos. It's what we do. It's who we are. More control panels failed as Kevin's interface commands spread through the Zarek network. The ship's lights flickered. The alien officers moved uncertainly, unused to equipment failures. Your attack should have broken us, John continued. In your world, it would have. But Earth isn't your world. Chaos isn't our enemy, it's our oldest friend. Outside the ship, the battle continued. Lisa's mountain forces surrounded the vessel. Alan's civilian fighters secured the perimeter. Susan's submarines targeted Zarek. Ships attempting to provide reinforcements. The commander received reports from across the globe. Zarek forces in retreat. Mining operations abandoned, communication networks failing. You've won a temporary victory, the commander said. But our homeworld will send reinforcements. This is merely a setback. At that moment, Dr. Martinez's voice came through John's radio, loud enough for the Zarek to hear. We've accessed their long-range communications. The message is ready, John smiled. We're not just taking back Earth, we're sending a message to your leaders. The Zarek commander stepped back. What message? John approached until he stood face to face with the alien. You thought chaos was a weapon to use against us, he said. For humans, chaos is just another Tuesday. And now it's our turn to bring it to your doorstep. Through the ship's communication system, Dr. Martinez transmitted the message. They had prepared detailed scans of Zarek technology. analysis of their weaknesses, and a simple warning: you brought chaos to Earth, we mastered it. Leave now, or we bring it to you. The commander stared at John, its crystalline body dimming slightly. You would threaten our homeworld? We would defend our own, John replied. The choice is yours. Across Earth, Operation Wildfire continued. Humanity, once on the verge of breaking, now fought back with something the Zarek had never anticipated: organized chaos. Unpredictable yet coordinated, random yet purposeful. And in the command ship, surrounded by failing systems and confused officers, the Zarek commander faced a truth its species had never encountered. Before, some beings don't break in chaos, some thrive in it. 18 months after they arrived, the remaining Zarek forces retreated from Earth orbit. Their once mighty fleet, now reduced to less than half its original size, gathered in formation one last time before disappearing into deep space. On the ground, people emerged from shelters and looked up at clear skies for the first time in months. The storms created by the Zarek weather platforms had ended when human forces captured and disabled the orbital devices. In what remained of Washington, D.C., Lisa Powell stood with General Miller watching the last alien ships depart. The National Mall, once beautiful with gardens and monuments, now bore the massive landing marks of the Zarek command ship. Do you think they'll come back? Lisa asked. Miller shook his head. Not anytime soon. Our message reached their homeworld. They know. Now that Earth isn't an easy target, human civilization, while damaged, had emerged stronger from the invasion, more resilient, more innovative, and more united than before. Cities began rebuilding with flexible infrastructure designed to adapt rather than resist future challenges. At Echo Base, now transformed into a global research center, Dr. Martinez led teams studying captured Zarek technology. The aliens had left behind most of their mining equipment and weather platforms in their hurried retreat. Their technology is based on crystal structures similar to their own bodies, Olivia explained to visiting officials. It's elegant but rigid, designed for stable environments, not for adaptation. Kevin had expanded the interface they'd created, learning to reprogram Zarek devices for human use. We can use their mining equipment to help rebuild, he said. And their power systems are far more efficient than anything we had before. The captured Zarek scout had chosen to remain on Earth rather than leave with its kind. Through it, Doctor Martinez learned more about the aliens and their society. They evolved in a stable environment with minimal natural disasters or predators, she explained to a council of world leaders. Their society became rigid, unable to adapt. That was their fatal flaw. The Zarek prisoner, now called Crystal, by the humans who worked with it, added its own insights. My people believed order was the natural state of the universe. Chaos was something to be feared and controlled. We never understood species like yours that thrive in change. In Chicago, Alan Wright supervised the restoration of the city university. Education had become a priority as humanity rebuilt, with special focus on history, adaptation, and innovation, the qualities that had saved Earth. The Zarek thought they could break us by removing our technology, Alan told his students. They didn't realize that humans had survived and thrived for thousands of years before modern conveniences. We're adaptable by nature. The new classrooms incorporated both salvaged human technology and repurposed Zarek devices. Children learned physics by studying alien crystal structures and mathematics through the complex algorithms that had once controlled the weather platforms. Across the Pacific, Captain Susan Lee commanded a new type of vessel, a hybrid ship using both human, naval architecture and Zarek propulsion systems. Her fleet patrolled Earth's oceans, watching for any sign of returning alien forces. We're not just rebuilding, Susan told her officers. We're preparing. Next time, if there is a next time, we'll be ready from the start. The submarine network that had been so crucial during the invasion now served as a model for Earth's new defense systems, flexible, unpredictable, able to operate independently yet coordinate globally when needed. 6 months after the Zarek retreat, Lisa Powell stood before the newly formed United Nations Security Council. The invasion had changed political boundaries and alliances, bringing nations together in ways previously thought impossible. As Admiral of Earth's first interstellar defense fleet, I make this promise, Lisa said to the assembled leaders. What happened with the Zarek will not happen again. We will protect our world not through rigid defense systems, but through adaptability, innovation, and the lessons we've learned. The Council approved her proposal for a global defense initiative that emphasized flexibility over fixed installations, distributed command rather than central control, and technology that could function even when primary systems failed. The Zarek thought they understood warfare, Lisa told reporters after the meeting. They didn't realize that humans have been surviving chaos since we first walked upright. It's woven into our DNA. General Miller and Kevin Hall oversaw the integration of salvaged alien tech with human innovation. Research centers around the world shared discoveries and breakthroughs freely, setting aside the secrecy that had once divided nations. We're not just rebuilding what was lost, Miller explained during the opening of a new research facility. We're creating something better, stronger, more resilient. John Carson, now leading Earth's first deep space monitoring program, worked with teams tracking the Zarek retreat and watching for signs of other potential threats. The alien technology had given humans the ability to detect vessels much farther from Earth than ever before. They came without warning last time, John told his staff. That won't happen again. 1 year to the day after the Zarek retreat, humanity launched its first FTL-capable vessel. Built using a combination of human ingenuity and reverse-engineered alien technology, the ship represented a new chapter in human history. John Carson stood on the observation deck, watching as Earth grew smaller behind them. Beside him stood Susan Lee, now his second-in-command for this historic mission. "Are we doing the right thing?" Susan asked quietly. "Going to their territory after what happened?" John nodded. "We're not going to attack. We're going to observe, to understand. If we want to prevent another invasion by the Zarek or anyone else, we need to know more about what's out there." The ship carried a small crew of scientists, soldiers, and diplomats, a representation of the new, unified Earth. Their mission was exploration and intelligence gathering, not revenge. Still, as John looked out at the stars, he couldn't help but feel a certain satisfaction. The Zarek had arrived at Earth thinking humans weak and predictable. They had left knowing better. "They brought chaos to our doorstep," John said to Susan as the FTL drive engaged, sending them faster than light toward Zarek space. "Now it's our turn to return the favor. Not with violence or invasion, but with something perhaps more unsettling to the rigid Zarek society: the unpredictability of human presence, the adaptability of human thinking, the innovation born from chaos that had defeated them once before." The ship's name, painted on its hull in simple letters, seemed to glow against the darkness of space. USV Chaos on Earth, life continued to rebuild and evolve. Cities rose from rubble, designed now to bend rather than break. Technology advanced, incorporating the best of both human and Zarek approaches. Children grew up learning the story of the invasion not as a tale of terror, but as proof of human resilience. And in the stars, humanity took its first steps into a wider universe, not as conquerors bringing destruction, but as adapters bringing change. The Zarek had sought to use chaos as a weapon. Humans had shown them it was actually a gift, one they were now ready to share with the galaxy.